My mom was a runner. When things would get tough, like with family or friends, we would just up and run away and like leave to a whole new city or a whole new state and try and start a new chapter there. I was sleeping one night and my mom woke us up and said like, we're going. And she packed a whole bunch of stuff in a car and we up and left at like 3 a.m. in the middle of the night. Packed whatever we could from the house and drove through the night to Missouri. I was a bit closed off to friendships just because since I moved around my entire life, I didn't really feel like I wanted to make those friendships because again, I thought I was gonna up and leave. This is like the first place that we actually settled down and like I actually went to a school longer than like 2 years. I didn't go into middle school thinking I was gonna make any friends and I also didn't really wanna make friends. So I just went and would sit at a table alone. There was this other kid that sat with me. His name was Brandon. We both didn't really have like much friends or didn't look like it at least. And after we were sitting at that table for months, one day we just like got up and started talking. Because Brandon was one of my very few friends, I got super close with him. I think that we both like learned how to like be friends like with each other, and that's like where the learning process started. And that's where I had my first taste of community with that just one person. There's one day that he actually invited me to his house and it was so thrilling because again, since I didn't make these friendships when I was younger, I had never been invited to a friend's house before. I slept over, it was on a Saturday night and a Sunday before church. And Lori said like, you're not sleeping over here unless you go to church the next day. The first time I came to Elmbrook, like we walked in and it was so bizarre because I'd never been in a big church before. I didn't understand what Brandon was doing. He was running a camera and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. I sat right next to him and I just kind of was watching and just like scrolling on my phone, but like I still had that background music. And I started to go not because of the, like just Brandon was there, but because I wanted to hear the music. After the first few times of going to church, I was like, this is like kind of cool and I kind of want to be involved. Like I want to run a camera, I want to be like you. The first person that approached me was Silas, like he's a head of tech. Silas asked me if I like wanted to do something small, which was be a stagehand, which is just like bringing a table on. And I was like, yeah, this is so dope. Like, let me do it. Like, let me bring this table on. It was so much fun just to bring a table on for 5 seconds. Yeah. I wasn't going every week, but I was kind of trying to wiggle my way in there to try and find a way to go every week. I would ask Brandon more frequently to go sleep at his house and just hang out. And it just happened to conveniently be on a Saturday. And I started going for like 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row. That turned into every single week. It was really hard to actually interpret and understand the sermons because I didn't understand like honestly who Jesus was at this point. Silas actually invited us to go to the Elm, which is like a student ministry. The Elm was a big transition point of when I was just being curious about Jesus to actually wanting to pursue him. We went up to this booth that was giving out ice cream cones in exchange for your name and your phone number. And I was like, totally, like, I want free food. Like, give me an ice cream cone. Jared, like, started texting me and was like, hey, I'm Jared. You should totally come to Crew. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I totally ignored him. I did not hear what he had to say. He stayed consistent. He texted me again, like, the week after that. I totally ignored him, and it was fine. And I went through my week. And then Sunday came. And I was just at church and all of a sudden he's just at a booth and I was like, what is he doing at my church right now? Like, this is wild. So I went up to him and I'm like, yo, like you're the guy that keeps spam texting me, right? He ended up telling me that he was actually an Elmbrook field worker. So it was really weird how my worlds just collided. He told me that I should come to Crew at Waukesha and I was like, you know what? Like, I'll just check it out. I meet you like in person and you're super cool. Like, why not? I go to my first Waukesha meeting and I just sat back and listened and I found it so intriguing. And this is the first point in college where that curiosity for Jesus was almost like revamped and it was exciting. Jared ended up inviting me to this thing called the leadership retreat. And at first I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, no, thanks. I ended up giving in just because I was kind of curious and I also like was still in need of community and I was still trying to figure out what that community was in college. I just was so curious and I wanted to learn like more about God, like more than I ever had in my entire life. And I ended up meeting up with Jared and he started discipling me. he starts asking me really personal questions about like if I've accepted Christ yet and if I like really want to. And I said like, I don't really know. And that night I went home and I was like, well, yeah, why am I not following Christ? Like I am involved in this community, and this community was only led to me because of like what God did and like how Christ was brought into my life through this community. So I just ended up accepting him like right then and there, just one random night. It wasn't a big crazy thing. I said like, yeah, like you are my savior. Shortly after I accepted Christ, I decided to get baptized at Elmbrook. The people that I met through my childhood, so Brandon, Stuart, which was in the Bible study, Silas, Jared, all these people that were leading me to Christ were at my baptism. It took me 10 years to follow Christ, and through that I met amazing friendships and amazing community, and somehow I'm still here thriving and living my life for Jesus.